you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Thank you for tuning in, and welcome back to the Songwriter Show right here on Reality Radio 101. I'm your host, Sarantos. I'm a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are just so important to me, and that's why I'm thrilled to host this show for you every single Tuesday evening. I believe that every song is a story. Tonight's guest is Casey. Whether touring extensively across the US and Europe or gaining a loyal fan base from the millions who watched her as a powerhouse vocalist on season 13 of American Idol, Casey has accomplished so much in her short career. On the touring front, she's supported incredible acts like James Morrison, Eric Hutchinson, and David Ryan Harris, as well as performed her anti-bullying concert series, the You Matter Tour, at over 100 middle and high schools for over 40,000 students.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Welcome to the show, Casey. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So it seems like you're pretty busy, huh?
Some days more than others, but some days I'm pretty maxed out.
Yeah, you know what I learned a long time ago, though, is I don't complain when I'm busy anymore, because otherwise you're just sitting around doing nothing. So it's good to be busy.
I mean, I feel like the pandemic really, at least, you know, in my field, man, I will just never, not that I ever complained about being on tour. I hadn't done it long enough before the pandemic to get weary of it. Yeah. But man, every time, you know, for example, I had I'm going on tour again in a week. I leave for Switzerland, and I sprained my ankle really bad a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
And, you know, I had such a long day because it's really hard to be in New York and running errands on a sprained ankle. But you know what? Like, I'm running those errands because I am going on tour, and I'm back in New York because the pandemic is under control. And I just I think the pandemic gave a lot of us a little bit of perspective on, like, well, when you're busy and you're stressed out, it's usually because you're not sitting with existential dread in your room waiting for life to begin again.
That is very true, and that's definitely one way to look at it. Tell us a little bit, Casey, about how you got started singing or doing what you're doing.
Well, you know, I've been singing my whole life. I was one of those little kids who just was so drawn to music. But interestingly enough, I've always been particularly drawn to songwriting. I remember being, you know, must have been 6 or 7 or something. And I would memorize songs, you know, and I came from a very like non-musical household. You know, the music I listened to was what was on the radio. My parents don't play any instruments. No one in my extended family has anything to do with the music industry. And so I guess you could say that like my first introduction to music was like pop songwriting, like what was on the radio and what connected with people in that way. And, you know, I remember being little and I would memorize songs from the radio, and then I would sing that for my sister, and then I would sing my song for my sister that I had written, and I would try to make her guess which one was the real song. And not surprisingly, I was 7 years old, so she could always guess which one I had written. But I think back on that, and I think that's kind of what I remember more as being a little bit odd for my age, was really my preoccupation with songwriting and lyrics. And you know, I think lots of little kids sing, but I think it was kind of funny looking back how many hundreds of lyric books there are stored in a closet somewhere in my parents' house.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Who is your favorite musician of all time?
I'm going to go off the top of my head. Musician, I usually get asked who's my favorite songwriter, and I always say Taylor Swift. Musician, I feel like, you know, that is just such an open-ended question, because the reason I really I love Taylor Swift so much as a songwriter is I have found her ability to move between mediums in songwriting to be so impressively masterful. A lot of people who don't listen to Taylor Swift's like deep catalog think that she rather dismissively is just she's got a great mind for hooks, and she's a pop singer and a pop writer, and that's all she does. And what I think is really fascinating about Taylor Swift is she is such a master of songwriting that she chooses to simplify and write songs for the radio. And she chooses to write these deep, intricate, 10-minute long songs that really require a lot of buy-in from her audience. And I try to explain my obsession with her to like non-songwriters as like Jackson Pollock, right? With his paint that he splatters against a wall. A 5-year-old could throw paint against the wall. But what makes it so impressive is that a master painter made that choice to do that. And that's what I find really fascinating about Taylor Swift and why I love her deep tracks, but I also love her radio hits. Is I feel like when I see her do something, even like a song like Shake It Off, which isn't one of my favorite songs of her of all time, but seeing something with such repetition and mastery of simplicity, I really look at it through the lens of this is someone who could have done anything. And therefore, I find all of her choices fascinating.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. No, I totally get that. When you look at your songwriting process, how do you get started? Do you start the hook? Do you start with drum track? What's your process?
I usually start with a feeling. I tend to write about exactly what I'm going through at the time. And even when I go to co-writes and I have to muster up those feelings, it usually has to do with something that I am, still raw and is still on the top of my consciousness. And so I tend to be drawn to kind of pouring those feelings out of me. That's really what the experience for songwriting is for me. It's less about the guitar or the melody or the voice. It's really about how all those things kind of come out of you all at once. And so I tend to pick up my guitar and start, playing a little thing and singing and writing lyrics at the same time. And I would say like the first draft of my songs usually comes out one giant wave. And then I spend some time in the craft of songwriting, kind of dissecting that and trying to clarify what came out at first.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us a little bit about, obviously, you sound like a seasoned vet in terms of performances. How do you handle a mistake during a performance? Do you just let it go, pretend it didn't happen, or what do you do?
I can tell you a very specific example. I had my first show. So my tour with James Morrison, my first one, I'm about to go back to Europe with him again. But my first tour with him was in the UK, and I was playing the biggest venues I had ever played. We were playing these like really fancy royal theaters. The way I would describe them is they all looked like Radio City Music Hall. They were like really grand and fabulous and imposing, and like 3,000 people. And I was out on stage and I had so much energy. And as an opener, I just really try to come with like so much energy because people, aren't there to see you. And so you kind of got to give them the excitement that they might not have mustered for themselves yet. And so I had this great first show and the crowd was really great. And my songs are really personal and they're really vulnerable. And I talk about a lot of things that are difficult for me. And I was telling the audience throughout the show, like how excited I was to be there and how nerve wracking, but in a good way. Like this was an amazing moment. And I got to the end of my set, the last song, and I fully introduced the song. It's my song, the song In and Out, that's from my album. It's my first song to make it to national radio in the United States. It's got all these accolades, all these things I can tell the audience. And I go to start playing it, and I completely blank on what the song is. I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you, but like your brain you've played the song a bazillion times. You wrote this song and I couldn't come up with it because the guitar part was really similar to another guitar part and my brain could not get it out. And so I played like 2 rounds of 4, trying to get it. Yeah. And I stopped and I looked at the audience and I said, guys, I'm going to be real. I know that there's a lot of you out there and I just forgot what to play. And I said, but the good news is, your girl knows what she's doing. I got a lot of other songs. So you guys are going to get lucky. I'm going to sing a different song. And I pulled a different song out of my butt that I hadn't practiced, right? Yeah. And it was so funny because I told the audience, but then I moved on. I was like, this happened. It definitely happened because I'm like, I have so many feelings right now. I'm so excited. But you know what's so great? You're going to hear a song that no one else on this tour is going to hear. And I was at the merch table after, and multiple people came up to me and they're like, between you and I, you faked that, right? you faked that, right? And I was like, no. And they're like, because the song I played is a song I really like as well, right? And they're like, oh, I thought you were like trying to do like the cutesy opener. Because he's like, it was so, the thing that I do is try to be over prepared because you're always going to mess up. But if you can finish strong and just be honest, usually if I'm in the middle of a song and I like my voice cracks, I don't acknowledge it. I think it takes the audience out of it even more than the actual mistake. But when it's a big blunder like that, acknowledge it and move right by it.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Tell you what, tell us about this song Skinny that we're going to hear in a minute here. What inspired it?
So, as you might guess from the title of the song, Skinny is about my relationship with my body. And, it's a very difficult song for me to sing. The first couple times I sang it on stage, I cried because it's very personal and it's not something that, I fully worked through. It's something that I deal with every day. And to get in front of thousands of people you don't know and kind of share such a vulnerable aspect of yourself, it can be very intimidating and very scary. But I wrote the song Skinny the Monday after the first weekend, the bars opened back up in New York City. I was vaccinated and I'd been so good. I hadn't gone out at all. And finally, me and my friends got to go out. And I had a very unique experience in that, not unique to the pandemic, but before the pandemic. The experience was I gained weight throughout the pandemic. But I didn't see anybody and I didn't socialize. And so it's like socially, I was frozen in time. And then the next day I weighed, 20 pounds more or something like that. And so I had the experience of going to the bar, and not only was I treated differently by the people in the bar, which I think I definitely was. But in some ways, much more upsettingly than that, I was treating myself differently. I was perceiving myself as not desirable, as not cool, as not shiny, as not fun because of all of the internalized fat phobia that I have. And it was really upsetting, and I was really mad at myself. I'd looked forward to this day for so long, and then part of me couldn't really enjoy it because it was really hard to be the curvy one in the group of friends and get shut down by guys and not get talked to. And so then on that Monday, I had a co-write with my friend Hadley, who is one of my best friends from Berkeley. And I was just telling her about it. And she's a very wise, smart person. And so I was telling her about my conflicting feelings about how I felt so guilty for feeling bad, that I was a bad feminist, that I cared, and then I felt gross, and I felt all these horrible things. And we talked for like an hour, and it was at the end of our conversation as friends that she turned to me and was like, I think we should write this as a song.
Yeah.
And the reason that the song is so raw and so honest is because I told her everything you hear in the song in conversation between friends. I did not come up with those examples and those feelings and the way I expressed them thinking that the world would hear it. I said it in private conversation, and we went right back in and we wrote the song, in like 45 minutes because I'd basically written it in the past hour in this conversation. So in that way, it really, when I play the song out, I have found it really, really, really penetrates through for people because it's like I wrote a song about all those little secret thoughts that a lot of us have, but are afraid to say.
Definitely raw. All right, I'll tell you what, let's take a listen and we'll come back and talk, okay?
Sounds great.
Awesome. All right, guys, check this out.
She grabs a dress from the back of my closet, the short one I haven't worn since I bought it. A little lipstick, glitter eyelids, just a touch, there's nothing she's hiding. With all my friends, she poses for pictures, post it quick, no thought, no filter. She calls me pretty, we both know she wouldn't trade places, wouldn't trade faces with me. I watch her all night, dance around the room, living my life like I always wanted to. She's stuck in my mind, a vision who I'm supposed to be. She's happier than me, skinny. She drinks the good stuff she can't afford. easy when you don't pay for it. And when she goes home, she's never alone. I leave the bar, a hole in my heart again. I watch her all night, dance around the room, living my life like I always wanted to. She's stuck in my mind, a vision who I'm supposed to be. She's happier than me, skinny. And I see her in all my reflections. She's a figment of future perfection. But I'm not so sure I'd actually prefer to be her. To be her, 'cause she don't eat pizza at 2 a.m. Sitting out on a stoop with her friends. She won't drink too much, she'd hate to end up to never enough. I watch her all night, dance around the room, living my life like I always wanted to. She's stuck in my mind, a vision who I'm supposed to be. She's happier than me, skinny.
Well, that was a really cool song. Thank you so much for sharing it, Casey.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the platform to share it.
You're welcome. So even though you've had quite a bit of success, at heart, you're kind of still an indie artist. What would you say is the best way for the listeners or people out there to support indie artists?
Oh, I am definitely an indie artist. Let me tell you, indie artists, that lasts for a long time. I always tell people, and it's funny, as somebody who's in the music industry and all my friends are musicians, I didn't realize that people didn't really know this. The best way you can support a new artist is, one, to buy something, right? But go to their website, buy something, right? They need money. And then number two is to, tickets to their show. But let's say that's not an option, or you've already done that. Something people don't realize is how helpful a Spotify follow or an Apple Music follow is. It's like the golden ticket of SEO searches on the internet. Basically, when you go to Spotify and you follow my account, Spotify's like, whoa, you really like this artist. Let me make sure not only you hear everything she puts out, but people who like artists like you like, I should probably show them her stuff. And so I am on stage again. It's like that thing of, asking for help, the second half of my James tour, I started on stage asking people to follow me on Spotify or Apple Music. If they were going to follow me on Instagram, if they were going to follow me on Facebook, please also follow me on Spotify and Apple Music. And my follows jumped up like 1,000%. So anyway, long answer to a short question. Please give me a follow on the streaming service that you use.
Awesome. Tell you what, why don't you share with us where people can, your website, your socials, anything you want to share for the listeners?
Yeah, so my name is Casey McQuillan, but McQuillan is very Irish and not the easiest to spell. So for my handles, we just have Listen to Casey. My name's Casey. So my website is listentocasey.com. My Instagram is Listen to Casey. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Your girl's on TikTok. She's old. She's trying to figure out how to use it. But you can hang out with me there. And as always, the best place to go, right, is my website, because literally every piece of information you could ever want is on my website. And any listeners in Europe, I'm going to be doing a bunch of dates soon, in a couple weeks with James Morrison. And I'm also going to the UK and doing 5 dates in the UK that are my own headline shows. And I would love to see you there.
Awesome. That's really cool, Casey. I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It was an absolute blast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great.
You're welcome. So to any listeners out there, thank you for spending a little bit of your time with Casey and I. We appreciate it. We hope your own unique story gets heard around the world too. My name is Sarantos. Please join me every Tuesday evening to hear other amazing artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show on Reality Radio 101. Have a great night, everyone. I love you guys.
You're knockout and bulletproof, and who am I to argue that DNA looks good on you? Every rainbow smiles down on you. I can't believe you're holding my that you picked me to be your man. There's nothing you can't do, nothing's impossible for you. We're 4 ears but only one mouth, I'm always full of doubt. We both miss the man I used to be. We both know you're not nice to me, but I'm just glad I met you. Why'd you do that? It's 'cause you can. Girls that look like you do what they wanna do, play with any man, but it's the eyes. You're so easy on the eyes. I'm lost in a sea of noise, don't feel like I have a choice. In the night I'm the sad boyfriend, but in the day hope this will never end. Your eyes always bring me back, push us gently on track. They matter more than you think, they lift me up, it's all instinct. We're 4 ears but only one mouth, I'm always full of doubt. We both miss the man I used to be. We both know you're not nice to me, but I'm just glad I met you. Why'd you do that? It's 'cause you can. Girls that look like you do what they wanna do, play with any man, but it's the eyes. You're so easy on the eyes. You're a Powerball ticket I never had a chance to cash in, but now that I've got you, I'm gonna do anything I can to keep you, anything I can to keep you, anything I can. I'm just glad I met you. Why'd you do that? It's 'cause you can. Girls that look like you do what they wanna do, play with any man, but it's the eyes. You're so easy on the eyes.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.
This program was mixed and mastered by Landis Maitland Whitelaw at landismaitlandwhitelaw.com.